Welcome back to same topic article of fascia steel framing in Tekla Structures. This is part two of the same topic. Now we want to create some connection here. So I'll come to this side. I'll come to applications and component and scroll down, and I'm targeting a splice connection. So I'll scroll up and pick on PEB splice right there. So I'm going to pick this as my first primary, and that is secondary. So that has been created there. So I had shared this. So let's just double click so that you see the actual details of this particular connection. So let me just give you some time to load that information. So what you have here is this a 1010 extension with the end. And also if you come to bolts here, you can see the bolts that I had entered with all those details. And under parts, you can see the thickness and the width of that member. You can see 8 mm. And the profile, you can give it a profile of your choice, maybe PLT or plates. You can just pick that if you want, and you can give it a name here. Maybe you want to a flange connection, or maybe FT, whichever name you prefer giving this connection here. You can just key in that. So whenever you click OK, that will be okay. Class is just the color coding, of that member of that connection. So if I decide to put maybe 3 right there and click modify, you'll be able to see it changes to a different color from the initial one. So this 3 color code will change to a different one. So let's just give some time, and you'll see the result right away. So you can see it has changed. So I don't like that color at all. Let me just leave it on the default. So if I close that, then come back to undo, I'll be able to undo that, and we get back to our original color code. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just come here and come to navigate, and I will weld this to that. And prior to that, we want to create some plates here manually, because once we start placing the guts on this side, we'll need to place a gut on top here. So I want just to place a plate on top here. So I can place that plate manually by coming to a plate, then picking on these 4 corners to create a plate. So let me just like there and close that polygon. And if I double click in here, I'll be able to get the properties of this particular plate. So once I've clicked on it, I'll come here and change this maybe to 8 mm or 10 mm. Let me just leave it at 8 mm. 10 is way thick. So if I go ahead and click modify, I'll be able to have that in place. The reason why I'm doing so, because I might place a gut on top here just uh, for the purposes of fixing a gut on top there. And also see same thing I'll do with the bottom end. So instead of repeating the same thing, I'm going to right click here and pick on copy, and pick this member from exact point similar to that, and copy it at the bottom end here, because we need some another gut at the bottom end here. So let me just place it right there. So once I've done so, I can just go ahead and either join the plate to that by way of weld. So I'm just going to key in here 85, right, like that, and I'm going to pick on the type of weld and pick on stanchion there and weld this to that. So that has been welded together. So that plate is part of this vertical framing. So I'm going to weld this to this. So a weld has been created there. So if I right click and come to redraw, I'll refresh and get rid of any symbol of connection there, like that green cone has been taken away. So the same thing will be done. I'll weld this to this. So this part and this part will come together, transported to site, and this one will come together also, because this side will be welded to this and be carried to site together as an assembly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy rotate this to the opposite direction, so that I'll be able to copy them on the side of the gable frame all the way to the far end of the other frame. So let me just copy this first, and prior to that, I want just to check or define my rotation point. And my rotation point I have to define prior to invoking the rotation command. So let me just zoom closer, and maybe if possible I can just double click on the screen, so that I'll enable the points that I had created previously, because I had created a point at the bottom end here to define the rotation lines or points for my case. So let me just if I come to display here and enable these points here and click modify and give it an OK like that, and close that, I'll be able to activate the points that I had created here as my rotation points. So I had created this point and that point. So I'll use these 2 points to create a copy rotation command. To copy this using copy rotation command. So let me just select this, select on that, and select on this, select on that. So I'll pick the plate so that I'm pretty sure that everything will be pulled along or moved along. So I'm going to right click once I've selected the copies components I want to copy together. So instead of using a linear copy, I'm going to copy rotate using that option copy rotate. So I'm going to use 2 points here at the bottom end here as my rotation points. So the moment I pick these 2 points, you'll be able to see the origin coordinates or coordinate origins will adjust in accordance to these 2 points I've just picked. So if I pick on that, you'll be able to see they adjust. Let me just do that once again and do that once again, and it's not responding. We have to redo that once again, but we must make sure that our selection is active. So let me just come back and pick rotate, and I want to go and define my rotation lines here. So I'm going to snap on that spot and snap on that spot. So if I click on that, you'll be able to see the rotation. So that's okay. They have adjusted to that point. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use you can use an angle prefixed by, so this is subject to the side you want this member to be. If you want it to be on this side, you can prefix that angle by a negative sign. If you want to be on that side, you can just leave it positive, but without any prefix of any symbol. Without any prefix means it's positive, but if it has this negative sign, means we're moving in the opposite direction. So I'm going to click copy. So if I click copy, it should be copied on this side. You can see that. But it's one thing you've noted, it's slightly off the target. So what we are going to do, I'm going to select everything and try to pull it or take it inward. But you'll note something that our connection here is somehow connected, is somehow assembled. So it might be very tricky if we try to move it to this direction, because the next step you're going to do is just we want to take it closer to this knee joint here, so that this side will be welded, and we will be welded to that knee joint there. So let me do something, and I'll select everything here like that. So once I've selected everything, and I'll come to pick the plate to include in my selection. So prior to that, let me just rotate this so that I'll be able to see what I'm trying to move to do, because I want this to be connected to uh, the knee joint here, this area here, without interference of this stiffener. So I'm going to right click once again. So if I right click, it seems that the right clicking has disabled our selection. So just go back and redo it. So I'm going to just select everything there. So once I've selected everything, I'm going to press Control and rotate that. So to make sure my selection is not deselected, I'm going to press Control, right click, and come to interrupt. So I'm going to once again right click and come to special move and pick on linear. So I want to move it in that direction. So I'll have to check the direction of my XYZ plane, and the X is pointing that direction. So I'm going to key in dimension like 10 millimeter, and click it repeatedly, and it will be moving in an interval of 10 millimeter intervals. So let me just try that. If I click on that, you'll be able to see it's moving, but there's nothing in opposite direction, because this member, um, its axis is different from this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to explode it so that we get out of that axis, its own axis, so we have one axis that will work for us all. So let me just undo that, undo that, undo that, so and undo that, so that we have it back at default. So we'll go all the way and begin selecting everything once again. Prior to that, I have to explode it. I'm going to select this connection, right click, and come to explode. So once I explode it, we'll have one single XYZ plane that we will be moving along. So let me just zoom out. So once I've zoomed out, I'm going first of all right click and come to redraw so that I get rid of anything that I don't need, like points and any symbol of connection. So let me just leave it on that spot and go ahead and include my selection in that. So let me just come back to navigate, and I want to rotate that. Then we just go ahead and start moving this in an interval of 10 meters, 10 millimeters. So let's just go ahead and start doing that. Just go ahead. If it's moving slowly, we can just make it 100 and we can move faster. So once it's closer, we can reduce that distance to 20 and now move it at interval. So it's closer and we've locked the surface of that plate. So we have to undo that. Let's undo and come out slightly and can go in by approximately 10 millimeters so that we don't create some clashing. So that's way big and we have to undo that. We have to undo that and come in with 5 millimeter. As long as you get the surface, that's okay. That's enough space for welding. So I'll come here to navigate and pick my rotation point on that. And if I rotate that, you can be able to see we are close and to that. So this is okay and this is right. So I will populate this on that direction and I will populate that in that direction. So let me then on the next presentation or the next part of the same topic as I show you how we can populate this in this direction prior to adding some guards that will be holding the clad on this side and on that side. So let's meet on then on the next presentation on the next part of the same topic, and I hope you've learned something.